Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Breakthrough. And today I have a very special guest, Ray DiYanni, the owner of DiYanni Homes. This is a great privilege because not only are they on track to do over $100 million in production this year, but he's willing to sit down and share his expertise, his ups and downs, and help people like yourself, the younger generation, learn and hopefully be able to build upon those experiences. So thank you so much, Ray.
Absolutely. Yeah, good to be here.
I know you mentioned earlier that, you've been in this industry your entire life. You were growing up, your parents were into building houses, and you mentioned there was a moment when your brothers, your family came together, and they decided that we're going to make this into a company, and that's when you were about 16 years old. Did you have an imagination that you would be here today at one point, or did you have other aspirations as a 16-year-old? Hey, I wanted to do something else. I was kind of like sucked into this, or did you always know that this is where you were going to be?
Oh, that's a great question. And to be honest, I would say I had other aspirations. I did. I was playing football in high school. Always thought, I could possibly move on to maybe play college, but didn't have the skill level. So that came pretty quick that wasn't going to happen. But I also had aspirations of doing service work. I really was interested in missionary work. I had done a lot of early on missionary work as a kid. Had opportunity to go to Dominican Republic when I was 13 and served there. So I wasn't sure. I was good at construction. I knew about all the phases that I had worked in. I could frame, I could lay block, I could lay concrete. I knew every phase to a pretty high level at a young age, but still wasn't convinced that's the direction I wanted to go. So that took a little bit of time to get that figured out, and I had an incredible breakthrough on that.
What did it take for you to realize that I have to put aside my aspirations and help the family essentially?
Yeah, it's a good one. I'm going to say I got more involved in the company. I graduated early, so I graduated high school when I was 16, and began to really get into the business between the ages of 16 and 21, so still pretty young, but my heart still was to figure out really where was I going to go. And so at a young age, I was a partner. I was a full-fledged partner. I sold out my partnership.
Really?
To explore other avenues. And the avenue was I wanted to go to Bible college and see if that was the direction I was supposed to go. So I did.
Like to be a pastor?
Yeah, I did. Well, I wasn't sure. I was maybe pastor, again, missionary. I wasn't settled in the understanding that that secular work could be so sacred. I was still thinking about
like God's work in like my day-to-day.
Yeah, like if I'm doing secular work, I don't know that I'm connected to God. Like, I'm going to be separate from Him. I didn't see it as I didn't see it as a calling in life. So I was kind of disillusioned, to be honest with you. I was disillusioned overall by, the church and the whole concept of if you're not doing missionary work, if you're not serving,
like if you're not on stage,
if you're not on stage, you're not really serving God, And so that was kind of I didn't know, so I was in this quandary kind of position. So I went to Bible college, which by the way was awesome. I got deep, much deeper in the Word of God, which ended up being a tremendous foundation for me later in life. But it was actually, it was a 1-year Bible college, and during that year, God clearly spoke to me and said, I want you in business. It was as clear as day, because I didn't go in there with that mindset. And the truth of it was God's, plan for my life was to be, a light in the business world.
And you've already sold your partnership.
I sold my partnership out. So So this understanding comes, and a year later, I go back to my brothers, and I'm like, "Hey guys, I got my answer," and they're like, "Great, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm back," and they were just, they were incredible. They were just like, "This is awesome, welcome back." So then I bought my partnership back in.
Mm-hmm.
And, they accepted me with open arms, and it was just a terrific run for a segment of time while I worked with my two older brothers that later retired. Yeah.
Before I get into asking more questions about the business side, I'm curious, what did your parents do to instill into you that desire to want to go and do missionary work, to serve? Obviously, it's coming from faith, but they must have been doing something, because especially in the U.S., you grow up, there's so many opportunities, it's limitless, you can do whatever you want to benefit yourself. Why were you so bent on that idea at first? Not that you didn't pursue it, you pursued it through business. What did your parents
how did they raise us to give us that? Well, we were raised Catholic, and along the way, my mom and dad basically went to a service where they just saw God in a different way. It was a non-denominational, and at that point, their lives changed. And I was young. I was probably, I don't know, 8, 9-ish in that way. That's what I remember them beginning to instill in us an understanding of who God is in a really incredible way. And so it kind of woke me up. It didn't mean that I embraced all of it. It just woke me up to get a better understanding of the relationship with God and what Jesus had done for us. And so I was hearing this as I'm growing up, but along the way, at age 12, I think I heard a missionary talk about service work, and somehow it just struck a chord in me. And I thought, man, I want to do this, So at age 13, I signed up with a group called Teen Missions. And then that's where I spent an entire summer doing missionary work in Dominican Republic. So it started with their change, and then it just got instilled in me. And I'm sure it was someplace they brought me that something happened, because I just remember having this really just an incredible desire to, one, do missionary work, but the second one was to travel. I wanted to see the world at a young age.
Yeah.
And so that's what I began to do.
That's incredible. So you went through that journey, you realized that it was God's purpose in you to serve through the business, and you went back to your brothers, and you actually mentioned off camera that one of your brothers was instrumental in bringing from his past career at IBM the business side of things. Can you share that transition that most businesses, probably less than 1%, actually get out of, which is that transition where you were had boots on the ground, nailing the wood together, to actually running an actual business and growing that? What's that transition like? And what role did you play in it?
First, I want to make sure, to just mention my brother Henry. He was the one that was transferred to Ohio. I'm sorry, his brother-in-law was transferred to Ohio. He stepped out of IBM, the company he had a major role in, and had a lot of business knowledge, and came to Ohio. And he really opened us up to understand a lot of business aspects that we didn't understand. And like you said, to your point, we were hands-on, boots on the ground, hands-on every day, working in the business, not really seeing the long game. It was every day, get up, put your work boots on. And, I was either laying block, I was framing, I was putting mechanicals in, I was trimming houses, I was painting. And it's hard to see how to work on the business when you're working in the business. It's just tough. So when Henry came in, he began to paint the vision. He was the first one to get a cell phone for his car. It was a huge box with a cord, and I remember looking and going, this is the most unbelievable thing. He's got a phone in his truck. This is crazy. Like, how do you do this stuff? So Henry was just on another level. He just was. And brilliant mind, absolute brilliant mind. And so he painted the vision. Like, guys, we can begin to slowly bring guys on and train them to do what we're doing. And then we have to start getting software and computers and systems in place and SOPs and documentations. And it just started to paint a vision that we really had no idea. And then the next piece was building trust and relationships with lenders, getting our pro formas together and our who we are and laying out the game plan for what we want to do. And so it was a process. And I mean, I'm young. My brother Phil was young. Dan's a little older, but still, he had work to do with us. We were great at what we did. We were exceptional at building homes.
He had to help you change that.
He had to change the mindset because we're still locked into like, I'm not going to trust somebody to do this. This is what I need.
I can do it better.
I can do better. And it's like, the cost, we're going to spend a lot more money. How's this going to work? And so, when he really worked with us, began to lay out the picture and where we should go, it changed us, and from there we took, it's all risk, in business, you have to weigh it out. But we started to buy land, we started to build model homes, and started to work our way into growing our company to be a legit business. But he was the one that brought that knowledge.
How long did that take where it was you guys were laying all the brick to where you would consider that you were running it and working on the business and not tied down? How long did that process take? I understand that maybe they were first in that process, but like, what was that? How long does it take to typically do that? In your experience,
I would say it took us several years to get that in place. But it's the industry too. I would say it's, to develop the relationships with the banks took time, for them to trust to lend us money to buy the property, and then to bring trades on board and to get systems in place. So the construction industry is a tough industry, and to build it right, to prevent mistakes from happening, took some time. So I'd say 2 to 3 years before we really started to get those processes in place. We were still hands-on in a lot of it, project managing. We're out in the field quite a bit, but you could see the turning of the tides. Give it about 2.5 years, and we started to see the things happen that we needed to. In that process, I wanted to mention, we wanted to diversify too. So we were building homes, and my brother Dan and I started to renovate high-end renovations. We just thought, hey, let's capture both sides of the market, take the same business, same processes that we learned. And so we were growing both sides. But that change happened. That slowed down for the renovations probably in 2002 or 2003. We kind of shut that down because the home market was picking up. And then it was like, let's put all effort into building homes. And that's when it really changed.
What would you say usually probably around $1 million. That's where like the business owner really needs to start thinking about getting out of the business and working on it. What would you say is like the biggest lesson you learned, if maybe you've helped people before to get out of that mindset of working in the business and actually getting onto it, that reinvention? What would you recommend for someone that's going through that?
First of all, it starts with why. You have to have a deep why as to where you want to go. So, for somebody that's in the business and they're working on it and they lay out what the purpose is, what their vision is, where they want to go, that right there is going to be the telltale of laying out the strategy. At that point, I would say, I don't know if it's a dollar value. That's the thing. I don't know if I'd go, well, at $1 million. I know people that are working in that make way more than that, and they're just individuals still doing it themselves. So it's really, where do you want to go? For us, we wanted to grow to be a large company in Central Ohio at the time that we had all of us working together. When my brothers retired and it was just my partner and I, Phil and I got together, we decided to go, across the nation. Like, our vision is to be the largest scattered light on your lot builder in the country, And then there's a deeper why to that. Why? It's not just, hey, we want to be the largest. So it's looking at what do you want to do, and then at that point, I would think you would strategize, and you would network with people that are mentors that you could bring on board that would help you, put together an advisory board, and paint the picture with guys that have stepped into that realm and just, take in knowledge from them to how you step this thing one at a time, bringing on your first employee and how that's going to work, and getting the right systems in place, and then start to grow your business with a purpose and intent. So it's really, there's got to be a real vision for it. I think people my feeling is, I think people just step in and they just want to grow, and they run into walls, they run into situations because what is the vision? What's the why?
And I know that for a fact that probably for you, that why was what helped you to preface get through those challenging times, the '08 crash, COVID.
100%.
What recommendations do you have to put together a strong why? Like, for example, in your case, like, why would you want to be the largest build on your own lot builder in the country?
Yeah.
Like, how did you guys come up with that vision?
Yeah. The why for me came when I was in Bible college. From the realization of being able to serve God in a secular setting, but not just serve God, but be a voice, be an advocate, be somebody that brings the understanding of who God is and our relationship with Him, and how important that is into the business world to affect people on a level that they've never been affected. To me, this is church. This is my life. This is my ministry. Is to mentor people in the business world, and I take advantage of it all the time. I want people to know, just because you work in a secular place and maybe make millions, you have a purpose, and it's not to serve yourself. It's not to be, gather more stuff, and there's a purpose behind it. We have to figure out what that purpose is, and for me, it's to be a support financially to ministries that can use support financially, to mentor and raise up leaders in the business world, so they can be effective to the team that they're leading, and really to get businesses to wake up.
Yeah.
Why are they in business? What's the purpose? And so my partner and I are, we're actively involved. We want to be, in serving and supporting, other ministries that can use support.
That's so inspiring, because I remember, up until very recently, that question of how do I serve God and also do business, knowing that I need to do both. And like mentors like yourself and other ones that I've learned from, I've seen how their vision, faith-based vision, their why impacts not just the way they treat people, but gives them massive success. And then through that success, they have the influence to serve. It's really inspiring to see that.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to succeed and do it monetarily, and then everything else is suffering, or if there's not a good balance. But when you see someone succeed in a way where it actually is all encompassing, where there's a bigger vision behind themselves, that's the most inspiring thing.
Yeah. And a lot of people are out there, they're struggling. They don't know their why. They might be doing really well, financially, and have a lot of stuff, but I think what matters most to us is that the deeper satisfaction comes in helping humanity, and finding your purpose and how to do that is just huge, and I'm kind of surrounded by some large businesses that have, even, in my opinion, they excel at this. And so they set the pace for me. I look up to them, and I want to step into that place where it's even at a higher level. But right now, where we're at is, we're raising leaders. We're really implementing, I would say core beliefs, but we're also training on the behaviors behind the beliefs, and really helping people understand how you live. This is what we expect within our organization, but the reality of it is you should live this way outside the organization. This is how you should live. And if I can do that and help people understand a better way to live, so we're building people, and then we're building homes, which to me it's the most incredible thing. I believe that's what Jesus did, honestly. I think he built houses, man. And so I just have that belief. And for me, a house it's a sacred place. It's just an incredible opportunities for families to build memories and children to be mentored and, grew up in homes. And it's just, it means a lot to me. I love the product we produce, which helps.
It's where their life is.
It's so. I mean, I could be doing other things, but building houses is definitely special. And we do take pride in it. We really do. We build what we call lifetime homes. We put a lot into them, but it's because we want people to be there. We want them. For instance, we don't build homes that people buy and sell. You know what I mean? We build homes. The majority of them, people are going to go into them. They come in. This is our life. We're going to be here for the remainder of our life, and I love that. I love building multi-generational homes where you see, grandparents living with their sons and daughters living with their grandkids, and I just think that's an incredible, beautiful thing to see that, because we're so scattered and so fragmented, and to have that opportunity to see families come together, it's incredible. It really is. So we have that, and then we're building leaders, and then we're able to financially bless, organizations out there that are in the trenches, doing an incredible work out there, and to be able to support them financially is awesome.
That's that. If God gives you a gift to like manage and to organize, and let's say initially you were thinking, oh God, I want to go and be a missionary, and God was like, I have plans that you would build an organization that would be able to bless and support many more people than you would on your own be able to accomplish. So that's really incredible. How do you go about finding people that would buy into your vision and the way you do things? When you're interviewing to find team members, what do you look for that would give you the confidence that, yes, I think this person will embody the vision that we have?
That again is a really good question, because hiring the right people is the name of the game. I think it starts with having a real solid understanding of what are your guiding principles as a company, and within that, we declare, the purpose of why we exist is to give glory to God, and we do that by basically using biblical principles, and we want to take that, giving glory to God using biblical principles, to enhance the lives of our associates, our trade partners, and our customers. So the first thing we want to do is address with whoever we're bringing on board is to have them look at that and go, are you in line with that? Do you understand coming on board here? We are very vocal about who we are and our purpose. Like, you can go to our website and see, this is why we exist, is to give glory to God. Because I truly believe when you're doing your work, whether it's secular or in ministry, and you're giving it all you got, you're giving glory to God. And so, and we want to have a foundation of the biblical principle aspect, so people understand the decisions we make, the ethical decisions we make, are based on the truths in the Word of God. And we want to enhance the lives of our associates, but it comes by giving glory to God and what we do together. So it starts there, and you can tell right away if somebody aligns with that or they don't. So what we feel is this is who we are. Your skill is great, but it's the behaviors are what we are more concerned about. And so we can get into conversations about that, and kind of get a feel. But we do make it a point to address those things early on, and try to get a better understanding of who we're bringing on board. And because I think that really matters in the long run. And I think we've done a good job at that. I think, we're very vocal about our relationship with God in meetings. We pray, we talk about biblical principles. I think, there's not a person in our company that would say that would disagree with me on that.
Yeah.
We just want them to know who we are, and we're not ashamed of that, and there was actually a story one time, I can share this.
Yeah.
I hosted something pretty awesome. It was during Easter, and I just put it on the website. I had my IT guy put it on there. I was just feeling that we needed to do something that was really cool, and so it was basically the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus, which was what I posted on our website. And the next day, we had a high up person here in the state of Ohio come into our office, and without asking any questions, laid down a deposit check and said, "You guys are building my house," because what I saw on the website was incredible. And I am so on board. Didn't ask any questions, didn't ask about pricing or nothing. Just laid a deposit check down and said, "I'm building with you guys." I just thought that was awesome.
I had an early on experience being able to work with Chick-fil-A, and their motto for business is the same way, to glorify God. And the reason why it was such a privilege is I saw that connection of serving God through business, and so inspired by the way Chick-fil-A did it. And I saw that it was possible. And the coolest part was the value of how the people in the company were so different. Everyone radiated that approach of service, and they always say like "my pleasure," but it's radiating throughout their whole company. And I think that's another living testimony of how you can truly be that light, that city on a hill, through your employees, the way you train leaders up. I mean, it's a privilege to be able to be there.
Yeah, I don't think people realize, like, we're all gifted and talented, and when you can operate in that and really lock in and become passionate about what you do, it's the way it's His design for who we are, and it's incredible. It's a really neat thing. I think a lot of people struggle with that understanding, and they do work, but they're not all in, and they do half a job sometimes, and it's helping people understand it's okay to go all in. It's get good at it. That's another aspect of what I think people miss is sometimes it's, I have this hobby that I want to do as a business. And it's like, sometimes it's just becoming great at what you're doing. And then you realize how much you love it, So it's just bringing an understanding that I think for me, I missed. I never got that. And that's why I struggled early on. Mm-hmm. I vacillated between whether I should be a missionary. Man, if I had that, I would have locked in much earlier. I would have went, all in, man, knowing that this is God's design for me is to be the best at what I do, and just give it all you got, passionately commit to it, and watch what happens.
Yeah, if God made you that way, don't be ashamed of it.
Don't be ashamed, man. Go.
There's probably a lot of ups and downs, but specifically, most likely COVID.
Yeah.
How did you go through that process? Was there a moment where you were going and thinking, should I keep going? Like, should I just throw in the towel and quit? Was there ever a moment like that for you?
Yeah, that was a very rough time. And to be totally transparent, I had to get up early every day and really cry out to God, because we were in a really tough spot. We had sold a lot of homes across the country, across the state, and in other states, and to try to facilitate the scheduling and building of those houses when so many things were shut down. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, having loans that have closed where people were locked in at a price point, and then having costs just shoot through the roof. It was a really tough time. So we had, really upset people. We had no way to fix it. We just couldn't fix it. So, and again, we were on the upside of building our company. So it was almost like the perfect storm. We had built this incredible system. We have still incredible sales consultants that are very knowledgeable. They understand how to design and work with buyers to design the right home for them, and they do it very efficiently. And then we have a process of helping people get through there to get their homes, to be started. And it became a machine. It was like, wow, this is really happening. And then the market just went through the roof. So people were buying homes. So we were just seeing this thing tick up. We're like, this is this is incredible. And then when when COVID hit, we had to really look at, our systems. We had to re-strategize our whole business structure, because the way we were purchasing, the way we were handling our trades, the way our loans were being closed. I mean, everything we had to look at. And so we had to restructure our company to set ourselves up to never be in that place again. But the end result was we got through it, but it was really, really hard. I mean, my partner and I got together often and just prayed. That's all we could do, is just pray, God, give us wisdom how to work through this. And little by little it came together. A lot of jobs got extended. It wasn't just us, the industry was hurt pretty bad. I mean, trucks were coming in to our supply, some of the places that we were purchasing from, half empty, and materials just were never showing up. But I would say midway through, we started to find favor with a lot of our suppliers, and so we were getting the first batch of materials, which really helped. There were guys that, matter of fact, some of them didn't make it. They sat waiting for stuff while our jobs were getting materials. So we found favor. We got our jobs done. Every house we completed. Time frames extended. But in the end, it made us a better company. We really saw who we can partner with and who we shouldn't partner with. And it woke us up. Best way to say it, I think my partner and I would say this: it woke us up, and we tightened a lot of things down, and became a much better company from it.
Can you take us back to a day in that life? What going through those moments? I know you said you woke up early, but what was it really like in the moment?
Wow, trying to relive that, boy. I blocked most of that out, No, it would be knowing that I had probably, I don't know, 10 to 15 phone calls I had to make that day. Generally, they would last 45 minutes to an hour, with buyers that were extremely upset, and asking questions about their home. So I knew that was coming. I knew those are the phone calls I had to make. I would get up, just heavy heart. I would literally I had a room in my house. I would just, for about an hour, I would just pray and ask God for wisdom on every conversation I was going to have, to make sure I was saying the right things to the people, being transparent, as to what's going on and what our game plan is. And then I'd come up, I'd get in my office, and I would just start to knock down the phone calls. And, there would be people very upset, sometimes crying, it was tough, man. And, and I couldn't give them the answers they wanted. That was the part. I just had to tell them, listen, we're giving it everything we got, and your house is going to get finished, but the siding isn't there for us, and your house is not going to get sided, and I don't know when it's going to be sided. Those are the type of conversations I was having. And as much as you would want or hope people would understand it, bottom line is, they don't, it's like they just want their house done. It's their biggest investment. everything they have is they're paying interest cost on the project. They're living in an apartment, a small, with their kids. And I mean, I had one that was, it was, I think they had 5 kids and they were living in a little trailer, and it was very difficult for them. It was very difficult. I mean, so many stories out there. And so we had to work through that every day. And then I'd get on and try to talk to the project managers, try to get good feedback. I'd be driving out the job sites. It was an entire year of that, of every day going through that. Very, very tough. I would say there wasn't a business situation that's happened prior, even the crash in 2008 didn't come close to that. I mean, that was a tough one, man. And out of that came the realization, my partner and I, we decided to look at the ones that really got extended, the time frames that really got extended. And we took it upon our shoulders to call each one of those homeowners after they moved in their home. And I personally drove out to these homes and met with them one after another, sometimes 3 to 4 a week. And they were all over the state of Ohio. So I'm driving hours all week long to these jobs, meeting with these clients, listening to their story, and just saying, I'm so sorry, it took this long to get you in your home, but let's talk about your home now, and I can honestly say this is one of the most incredible things. Not one complained about their home. The homes were built quality, but the time frame was really, really tough, how long it took. And then the next question is, because you build a house, there's always warranty, there's always, tweaking things here and there. And then the next question was, are we taking care of all the things on your home? And every time it was exceptional, everything that, we call, if something needs to be tweaked or a doorknob, whatever, you guys are right here taking care of it for me. And so we can hang our hat on quality built homes, hang our hat on taking care of our buyers. COVID really hurt us on the process, but what can we do? I still think looking back, hindsight, we should have slowed down the amount of houses that we sold.
It was growing too fast.
Yeah. That was, we were caught between this systems built perfect. It was the perfect storm. It was like, this is really starting to happen. The marketing was right. The people were coming in. They knew who we were. And I had my foot on the gas, and I look back, I go, yeah, I should have pulled that off, slowed it down. And I think we would have managed through it better. But that's a learning experience. And so we have systems in place now that tell us, all right, if homes are being sold, how many are being sold in a region? And if that exceeds a certain amount, then we slow it down, So we watch that now, but that came as a result of what happened in that period of time. Because it's like, we want to deliver a quality product. We have to make sure we can do it.
What's your vision to take it from where you are now to going nationwide and hitting the vision that you guys have set in place? What's stopping you, and how are you guys planning to get there?
So what's stopping us right now is there are a handful of systems that I feel got exposed, and I really want to spend time tweaking those systems. And what I mean by that is how information is transferred from department to department. And the more we grow, it's gonna put a lot of stress on people. And again, people, number one, my associates are number one. I want to make sure that they enjoy what they do, that they're being trained, that the work they produce, they know it's accurate, detailed, and consistent. And so, in looking down the road where we want to go, I'm spending time working on some more systems with a goal in mind of when that's going to be done. And we've targeted 2 other areas that we're going to branch into, and a little further away. So we're going to test our systems there. And then at that point, we'll be in the South, we'll be in the Midwest. And then every year we're going to be opening up new regions. So we have good systems on, what we look for when we want to put a model home in an area. Good systems on, what we look for when we want to bring somebody on board. We have really good systems on how we bring trade partners on board with us. So we've worked on all these systems. And again, I'm not going to paint a picture. It's perfect, but it's really good. It's exceptional. And we're using a lot of technology in that, we're incorporating a lot of AI into what we're doing. I have terrific support there on the technology side. Without that, I there's probably no way to do what we're doing. So right now it's going to be 12 months of working on systems. Already have land in the southern region ready to go, and so that's going to be the next push. So that's what we look for. So it's really, where are we? What's putting pressure on departments? That's important, because if we have really good people, you don't want to lose them. You spend all this time
because of the board.
You bring them on board, you train them, and you get people that are purpose driven and love their job. If there's broken systems, they only stay so long. It's it's like this is really frustrating. I don't need this, and so we've lost good people along the way. Our broken systems, man, you pay a price for that. And so we're not staying there. It's like, no, we listen. We get good feedback. We really try to work hard on hearing what our associates are saying and making the adjustments necessary to facilitate more of a team concept.
Yeah. What so what's the time frame, like time wise, like do you guys have laid out to achieve that goal to where you guys are nationwide?
I would say, my partner and I probably are maybe different on this, but I would say in the next 6 to 8 years, I think we could be nationwide. But I'll say this, my wife is like, how long are you going to do this? And I said, listen, let's run this, 4 years and then we'll evaluate. But I think, if we stage it 4 years, we're going to be pretty well diversified. And then, if you go let's say another 4 or 5 years after that, I'll be nationwide. So I think our systems are that good. But again, what's the why? Is the why strong enough to carry you through that? And I believe ours is. We spent a lot of time talking about it. The difference between building an infinite company and a what do you want to call a finite company? It's the why. And I don't look at our company as a finite company. I look at it as an infinite company. I see it affecting a lot of lives and doing the work that I believe God's called us to do. So,
and what are you doing to help preserve your company, or what are you doing to anticipate, like, okay, when you're no longer around, so that the company continues to grow and it continues to carry on that vision, that legacy that you guys have for so long built up?
I would say my partner Phil and I have talked about this, and there's 2 directions that we've talked about, and we really haven't firmed up 100% on the one that we would say, this is it. But there's always the opportunity to look at what we call an ESOP, which is a tremendous way to carry the legacy of a company on, and to really, I would say tremendously affect a lot of people in a very positive way. There's also the concept of, bringing on, board members that are, trusted and can run the company as we step out. And we just haven't, we talk about it, periodically. I'd say once a year we have a discussion about it, but I think in the next 3 to 4 years, we're going to identify what it is. And then we're going to really, probably push hard in that direction. But, those are the 2 that I could see that could carry on the legacy of what we're doing.
And kind of like, as we're wrapping up, when you're growing a business, right? There's so many things that are changing your life. So what role does it does a spouse play? Because this is something that as I'm
You weren't supposed to ask this question.
on the pod.
One question I said you couldn't ask.
No, I wanted to see, like, for someone that's younger, like, I've noticed mentorship helps. I've noticed, like, my spouse plays a big role in supporting, because if you don't have a supportive spouse, like, it's impossible to build something, let alone a supportive team. What recommendations do you have for your younger self? Like, what were things, whether it's with the spouse or just going forward into that, like looking back, but as you're growing into your business, like, what would you do differently? What would you have done that would really have transformed the way you did things even more so, or things that you did really well that you would continue to have done?
Yeah. I think I've made a good handful of mistakes. I'll list those first. One is I did. I would say I was in an environment growing up that, I think my father had that kind of workaholic type of personality, and I think that can kind of transfer down, and I think I did put work, I would say, above my family growing up. This is some of the mistakes I've made. And so first thing would be is you have to really identify what the boundaries are. If you're married, depending on when you, like, even still, like, when was the business started? Are you getting married when the business was already started, or are you starting a business when you're already married? Those can differ as far as how you work with your spouse, but bottom line is boundaries are huge when you're running a business and you're an entrepreneur. You really have to define with your spouse what is most important, and it might be the time that you're at work. It might be the hours that you're there, the traveling, the investments that you're making at work. I don't know what it's going to differ, right? So you have to understand what those boundaries are, and make sure that you stick within them, and and learn to shut work off when you're with your family. I think one of the biggest, probably the hardest things, is when you're an entrepreneur, your mind's running in 1,000 directions. You're thinking about conversations with employees. You're thinking about systems that need to be fixed. You're thinking about, oh my gosh, there's this massive bill coming through. We're going to make sure cash flow is going to cover it. And man, I got a bank loan that's, coming due on this. And I got this going on over here. And I got this house is getting ready to start, but the plans aren't done. It's just 1,000 things running through your head. And then you're with your family and they're looking at you and they're talking. How do you shut that off? How do you stop and go, I'm in the moment with my kids. I'm really hearing what they're saying. My spouse is talking to me and it's just not her lips moving. I'm actually hearing what she's saying. And they ought to teach classes on that, honestly. They ought to teach, because there's an art to it. There really is. There's a skill, and it's a practice to settle your mind down and understand that work will never stop. It'll always be there. And just let go and go, what's most important? Is it the relationship with my spouse? Is she more important than work? Then turn it off. What are we doing? And you have my attention, and I am not going to spiral while you're talking to me and let my mind rattle on something else. So I didn't do a good job of that. I've learned later how important it is, and I've worked really hard at shutting it down. And again, how important that is. If your kids are young and you're raising up a family, that's everything. It's everything. Later in life, when the kids have grown and moved out, and then maybe your spouse has a career and you guys are still connected, at that point, it's still good, but it's like, maybe not as critical, yet still really good to do that. Obviously, when you're together alone with your spouse. But I'm just saying, it's those are the things that I would say are hugely vital as somebody that's starting in business. They're married, and they're moving on, and how to maintain that relationship with their spouse.
That's incredible. Ray, I really appreciate all of the things you shared today, especially the downsides and the challenges, because your experience is something that most people don't have. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs, myself included, especially faith-based entrepreneurs, that are aspiring for big things, but do big things is one thing, but to do it God's way, the right way, is another thing. And to learn from someone like yourself is a privilege. So I really appreciate you being willing to share
Absolutely.
it. And the final thing, any information about DiYanni Homes will be linked below. And is there a way that maybe someone could get in touch with you if they really were inspired by your story and they wanted to learn more, or maybe get some advice, mentorship? Is that something that you offer, that formal or informal, that people could reach out to?
I'm looking for mentoring. No, I have no problem. I have people that reach out and that could grab a cup of coffee, and as long as I'm in town, whatever, it works. I love to do that. I love to help inspire, especially young people that are in that position. So they can get a hold of me, go online, call the office, and say, watch the podcast. Would love an opportunity if they want to, and I'd be more than willing to do that. Anything I can do to just help inspire somebody, and like you just said, do it the right way. Keep God first. And really understand the why. Why are you doing this? And really come to grips with that. But it's easy. I'd say call the office and just let them know.
Hey, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Ray. Thank you guys for watching this episode. And this is just a reminder that success in your life is not just one-sided, and there's so much more than life that you can accomplish beyond serving yourself. And if you want to hear more content like this, make sure to follow, like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next episode.